James Grande.
What is going on, everybody? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Slam NBA DFS Playbook live show. We got 9 games here on a Thursday. James, my buddy, my pal, how we doing, my friend?
Happy Thursday, first and foremost. Almost there, John. We're almost there. That's the key part here.
The NBA slate just continues. There's no days off.
Next week we have two game slates, like 3 different days. We have no games on Sunday. We're almost to Sunday where there's only football, right? Only football. So we're almost there, John. Happy Thursday. Fun. I mean, 9 games. Obviously, they're trying to front load these 2 weeks because we have the in-season tournament.
This is usually like a 3 or 4 game slate max on a Thursday. We got 9 games here. Yeah,
a lot of games. Shout out to Rex Timotheus. Shout out to 2 first names out there.
There's nothing wrong with you doing some back-to-back NBA here, Rex. No, nothing wrong at all. Shout out to our guy, Sean Mitchell, taking down the $15 3-max Battle Royal over on Underdog Fantasy. Listen, I say it all the time. Yeah, I know we break down the DraftKings slate here. We talk FanDuel, but I love the Underdog product. I'm over there. I just said, we have so much going on that sometimes I forget where I have allocated funds to. So it's like I have money sitting on Yahoo. I have money sitting on Underdog, and I just forget to go go into their Battle Royal. So if you guys are looking for for a snake draft DFS format, go check out Underdog Fantasy. Their Battle Royals is pretty awesome. Experience over there to take part in. So check that out. Sean took that down last night, so kudos to him crushing that. You cash for the 5th straight day, it seemed like, over in NBA. You're having yourself a nice little run a week. I saw some screenshots in the chat as well. A lot of you guys doing good. So I'm hopeful that we're going to continue that success for everybody here today. If you haven't already, toss a like down on the channel. Please do so. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, I don't know what you're waiting for on that as well. We go live here every day, 5 o'clock Eastern. We got an NBA pre-show that goes live here in the mornings as well. And then, of course, if you're looking for that fantasy football content, pretty much fantasy football all day here on this channel, 12 to 3 almost daily. We're giving you fantasy football live shows for you guys to get your lineup set. So hang with us here with Fantasy Alarm, and we got you guys covered for whatever your needs are. But we're talking 9 games here on the slate. It's a pretty interesting 9-game slate here as well. Some big names potentially out or not playing already. We have the Anthony Edwards considered doubtful for this slate. A big matchup, a big spread, really, even with him out of that lineup. Minnesota at home there this evening there. Curious if the Utah will be able to keep that one close because Lauri Markkanen is out. Jordan Clarkson's questionable. Kelly Olynyk is questionable. Those teams are on back-to-backs here. We know LaMelo Ball is out for Charlotte still. Andrew Wiggins got ruled out tonight for Golden State. That's kind of a big one. Chris Paul, we know, is also out for Golden State, so that rotation getting a bit shorter. Who gets the minutes? Is there going to be more value opening up on this slate? That's certainly something to pay attention to, because right now, if you go look at our draft percentage forecaster, the value is all in one spot. It's all on a team that is a double-digit home favorite, and we're not even sure if those guys will get all the run that they need to run to become good value plays here. So we'll break it all down. We're going to go position by position. We'll talk about today's slate, today's top matchups, and all of that good stuff. And if any breaking news happens, we'll have it for you here. The slate kicks off at 7 o'clock Eastern. Then we got a bunch of 7 p.m., 8 p.m.s, and then the late night hammer, 10 o'clock, 2 hours after the Utah, Minnesota, Chicago, Milwaukee game goes off. We got the Clippers and the Warriors here for everybody. So it should be a fun 9-game slate to break down. When talking about top spreads and totals here tonight, James, looking at that Atlanta-San Antonio game, Atlanta is a 7.5-point road favorite in that game with a 247 game total. Last time we saw a total that high was Atlanta-Indy, and it went for 309 points. If we got a 309-point game tonight between Atlanta and San Antonio, how many fantasy points does Victor Wembanyama score?
Well, first question is, will Victor Wembanyama play?
Right.
Second question is, how high does this total get? Because it's up to 248.5 now. So we're on the rise. The line is moving. Top 4 teams in pace, each of them. Bottom 5 teams in defense, each of them. So, there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game, and a lot of it is likely by Wemby. So that is definitely the top game environment on the board. Slightly behind it, John, Indiana, Miami. I know that's not typically like something you would say, but I just did the Better Sports betting show. And in 16 games, can you guess the over? How many times the overs have hit in Indiana games?
16.
14, but we're 14-2 to the over in Indiana games. So top team in pace, third worst defense in the league, and we just saw in the Miami-Milwaukee game there's 260 points scored. Maybe no Jimmy Butler again to maybe speed up the pace for Miami once again. So those two definitely top the list. I hope we get word on a Golden State starting lineup early, because who's just starting for Wiggins? I hope Steve Kerr is delivers that information. He won't, because he's one of the worst with like disclosing information in general. But because I would love to know who's starting in place of Wiggins. Like Kuminga is there and Sarge is there.
That's why. Does Moody get some extra run here tonight? What's
the field is getting to Masis Madi a little bit tonight. So it is
Chris Paul changes, and no Gary Payton, right? Like that changes that backcourt there. So definitely could see some interested run. I like Steph Curry tonight as well. I'll have the updated player pool section of that playbook finalized here after tonight's show for everybody. But the core plays are already written up. We'll get to the point guard spot now. I did have written up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander here at 10-5. I like the spot at home against the Lakers here tonight. Lakers coming in should be rested after their blowout win yesterday. And again, this is a spot where the line that I saw was moving a little bit. So if you're going to say we're going to have a competitive SGA game here against the Lakers, I mean, in a 209 total game against Minnesota, which we knew was going to be tough on the road against Minnesota, was going to be a tough matchup. Went for 32 actual and 51 fantasy points. Like if that's a floor, if we're looking at like a 50 fantasy point floor essentially for SGA here, this feels like a spot where we would get maybe close to a ceiling game. You got over 70 fantasy points the last couple of games here. We've gone over 60 in the last 5 games as well. So with 240 actual point games. So I don't know about you, but I'm definitely feeling some SGA as a top spend up on this slate if you're looking to spend up on this slate.
Yeah, agreed. He has a very safe floor. The Portland game aside,
23 minutes.
23 minutes. He puts up nearly 40 fantasy points. So Portland game aside, he's giving you 30 actual in almost every game. The peripheral stats are great. He's great defensively. So he does nothing wrong. So I would say he would also be my top spend. I would be interested in Halliburton. Pace down spot against Portland, 33-9. We don't get the double-double, but who's to say we wouldn't get that here if there's no Butler? 36 minutes was great. So I'm mildly interested in Halliburton. Do you think all this Golden State news increases your likelihood to get to Steph Curry? Or are you just I could play Steph, but I could also just play Trae Young for $100 cheaper in a game with a 250 total?
So I think more people play Trae because of it.
Yep.
But obviously having no Chris Paul helps Steph Curry, because what was the one thing we talked a lot about with Curry this year was when Paul's on the floor, Steph isn't passing to anybody. It's Chris Paul is the one passing the basketball. 3 straight games and 6 assists have been nice to see since they moved that starting lineup back to what we've expected it to become. The 10 rebounds is certainly a bit of an outlier. He did have 7 against OKC there, but the scoring's been great all season long.
Yep.
Has a night off, going up against the Clippers here now. James Harden, Russell Westbrook defense, that feels pretty good. So I certainly don't mind, Steph, if you want to get that late night hammer exposure, because you want to 2-man this with Steph Curry and Kawhi Leonard tonight as your late exposure. You can get 100 fantasy points right there. The way Kawhi Leonard has been playing, or if you want to go Paul George and think maybe tonight's the night he gets off, then certainly could go and give yourself another guy with 50 plus fantasy point upside this evening. So I definitely don't mind going to Curry if you want, but like you mentioned, you have Trae here at $9,700 in a game with a 247 game total. You're going to find people wanting to get exposure to this game here. Now, I've again kind of also suggested, well, you can pay up for Trae if you want, but there's a bunch of guys in this game that are below 9K that have nice ceilings as well. Not only just Victor Wembanyama, but DeJounte Murray's $8,200. Keldon Johnson's just $7,000, and he's flashed 50 fantasy point upside this season. We know what Devin Vassell can do, whether he's in the lineup or off the bench. Also has some decent upside here. Zach Collins, if Wemby's out, will be a core play, I think, for us tonight. So there's definitely just a lot of exposure to guys you can get on the Spurs side. And then all the secondary pieces in Atlanta are just as appealing as well. So I don't really find myself paying for Trae if I want exposure to this game, but maybe that's a way to be different tonight as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the ebbs and flows of using Trae Young. Like, it's when the shot is falling, he has as high of a ceiling as most players on the slate. Like, he's given us 60, almost 70 twice in the last handful of games because his shots would fall or have fell. And then in Cleveland, we get absolute floor or basement level performance where 13 and 10, 3 of 14 shooting, you're dead at 90. You're dead at 9,700. But this does feel like a pretty good game environment. I also don't hate the Curry point. I also don't hate if you don't want to it is hard to predict the Clipper that goes off every night. You could go Curry plus another Warrior given their injury statuses with no Wiggins, no Paul, no Peyton. All three guys just firmly in their rotation, now not in their rotation, right? So if you did want to just play the Golden State side of that game, who are not the team on the second leg of a back-to-back, we'll say Clippers did play all their guys on a back-to-back the last time around. Norm got injured last night. He is the only one on the injury report. They blew Dallas out on the second leg of a back-to-back with Kawhi going 2 of 12 in their first back-to-back, or in I believe this is the first back-to-back they've played this year. Second back-to-back. First back-to-back, Kawhi played 41 minutes on the second night of a back-to-back. So
they've held true to their word. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George said, we're going to play.
Yep.
Is that because they now have qualifiers in for what awards you can win with playing time? That's seemingly maybe the way things are going now. So I'm fine with that. I am curious to see where those Norm Powell minutes go. If he gets rolled out tonight, they played Brown there.
Kobe Brown, yeah.
Yeah, they gave him 15 minutes. They didn't really give Bones Highland or anybody else any extra run. Even Russell Westbrook only played 19 minutes in that game. So curious to see who picks up the 25 minutes that would have been Norm Powell in that game. So something to watch, or do they just give 40 minutes to Trey Mann? Does he just stay on the floor all game? Something to
hopefully not Trey Mann.
Not Trey Mann. What am I thinking?
Terrence Mann.
Trey Mann's been good when he's gotten 40 minutes. So
true. We need. No chance.
If he's playing 40 minutes tonight, something happened to SGA.
Yes,
probably don't want that being the case here. So again, you want to go to the top tier here? That's fine. Less than 5% right now. We're getting the Curry. We just got updated rostership in, so we'll get that uploaded to the site. I'm sure James is probably working on that as we speak. I see those fingers moving. So we'll have the updated rostership for everybody here momentarily. But not many people getting the Curry. We do have around 15% getting to Trae Young here this evening. When we work our way down, again, I didn't really find myself in love with a lot of the mid-tier here today when I was kind of going over the playbook. I don't know how you felt about it, but you do have Brunson in a really great spot against Detroit. DeJounte Murray, point guard, shooting guard eligible. I mentioned him already, liking him a lot. Brogdon at 81. Price is certainly getting up there. You do have Harden against Golden State at 8K if you think there's potential for him to have a good game off the back-to-back here. Rozier didn't look great the other day. Brooklyn's in the matchup. Dinwiddie's got to deal with Cam Thomas back rather. Garland 75 against Portland in maybe a blowout spot. So I just kind of scrolled through and I was like, I don't really care. Don't really care about anybody here.
I largely have the same feeling. I will say, and I've said it a couple times, I know Cleveland is leaps and bounds better than Portland, but Malcolm Brogdon has kept that team more competitive. So 7,500 Darius Garland is a good price, I think, in a game where, he's in 2 straight competitive games. Well, 1 in-season tournament game and 1 competitive game. He's played 38 and 41 minutes. So I'll love to see the minutes, 37 fantasy points.
He's a cash game play, I think, for me.
He's a solid play. I would love to play Brunson, but I just don't see how Detroit keeps that game close with the way the Knicks are playing it.
Yeah, I don't know. What did we say the total was in this one? 14? Something like that?
Yeah, and it's also over under is like 14. 219. Right now on BetMGM, 14.5 are the Knicks favored at home.
This is also it is so one of the reasons why I did kind of look at it is the pace up spot for New York here. Sure. New York 29th in pace, Detroit is 6th in pace. It's one of the reasons I put Emmanuel quickly in the playbook here today. And then, and I wrote out the playbook, kind of mapped out the playbook before I kind of gave a glance at rostership. I didn't want to have any sort of like rostership biases on the research that I was doing. So I put in quickly. We talked about quickly last night, and then you go look at the rostership here today, and ta-da! Like there's Emmanuel quickly right up there as one of the highest projected plays on the slate here. So good to sort of get some confirmation, I guess, on the play there. Based off where we're at with that. So, quickly for me down here at $5,300 on DraftKings is a guy I liked anyways. Played 26 minutes or more in 3 straight games, giving you 20 or 18 or more actual scoring in the 3 of those games. So, for some value here, definitely don't mind getting to quickly. Thoughts on some of these other guys? Kobe White, you and I kind of went back and forth on last night. You hate the price. If guys are out, though, I think he just chucks. I think he's the only one that's going to shoot. Could have a ceiling there. Keontae George, Mike Conley, Ivy, any guys down here in the 6K range?
I mean, we should probably talk about the Conley thing because he's highly rostered. The DraftKings price is very uncomfortable for a guy who is probably. I mean, look, he's playing Utah. So maybe there's something there if that's what you really need to get yourself to with Mike Conley, but he is just not a high usage guy. And I don't think suddenly this is what I'll say. He is $5,300 on FanDuel. He is a great play over there. He is $6,400 on DraftKings. I don't think I would touch that with.
He has an 11% usage rate with Anthony Edwards off the floor this year in 120 minutes. So.
And he's 6,400. That's not Kyle Anderson probably has the same usage rate.
Kyle Anderson has a 17.8% usage rate.
Well, shout out to Kyle Anderson, who's the highest owned player of the slate. But 6,400 for Mike Conley is not a comfortable price tag.
No, listen, I'm full on agreement with you. Just he did have that random game here against Memphis. You want to talk about maybe he gets up for revenge games, right? Maybe he just likes revenge games. Goes against Memphis.
Maybe
ceiling game gets Utah now. Maybe a ceiling game's on his way. Ivy fouled out yesterday, just disappointed the world at 50% rostership. Played 19 minutes in that one. Ugly game for everybody in Detroit there. Again, mention quickly, Sexton, I guess if everybody's out, do you give him a look?
Yeah, I would say there's definitely interest. This has, though, I mean, you want to talk about how disastrous Utah's rotation has been lately? This has 10 guys. Yeah. You should. I should have probably gone to the 12 route. All 12 guys playing 18 minutes, back to back in Minnesota, a night after they got smacked by drumroll Memphis, who has 3 wins on the year. Shout out Derrick Rose. I mean, this is. Yeah, I know what you're saying, and it's probably going to be a play that people get to, but it is tread lightly, as the great Walter White once said.
I mean, he played 28 minutes in that game that had no Clarkson last time out, so
sure.
We know he can't be a scorer, but he was also 48 that day.
Yeah.
46 that day. Now he's 55. So
needs to score. If Colin Sexton isn't scoring, would they just maybe close with THT, or they close with I mean, they don't have Chris Dunn this game. He's out. So that is, I guess, in favor of Colin Sexton. We'll see what the ownership settles in at. I'm very indifferent about Utah.
If Wendy was to sit, does Sohan go back to power forward and we get Trey Jones? Do we get Vassell? What do you think that starting lineup looks like?
They probably, my guess would be they start Shampenny.
Probably.
Just because Popovich is, because it's just Popovich. So I would say Sohan, Keldon, Branham, because of course we can't start Vassell. They announced him as the starter last game, and then he still started on the bench. So Vassell, Keldon, or whatever. This is Pop. This is what Pop's doing to my brain. Collins, Champagny, Branham, Sohan, and Keldon Johnson would be my guess at the starting five. With Trey Jones still unfortunately rotting on the bench despite being their best.
He was really good last year as a point guard.
He is. All right. Jeremy Sohan is not a point guard.
No, he's not. He's a 6'8" forward, but whatever. Got handles. Donnie Mitch broke the slate for you the other day. I don't know if you go back to that well or not at $9,300, but we know what the upside certainly can be for him.
Nope. Are you playing? Okay. That's all systems go. Everybody. All systems go.
Paul George, after being wildly consistent, has had a couple of tough games coincidentally with Kawhi Leonard having the best games of the season. So you pick and choose which one gets the better day today, and you win the prize. DeJounte Murray here, $8,200 is a core play for me. If you read the playbook, it's not just a go back to San Antonio narrative. I just feel like this guy for 3 straight games gave you over 40. Then has to go in Boston, in Cleveland, kind of a tough spot for them there. Much easier, high game total pace here for DeJounte Murray to get right. So I do like him at $8,200. Cam Thomas to me is still appealing. We don't know if there's going to be a minutes limit. There's just been a suggestion that there'll be a minutes limit. But what did we say about Brooklyn when they brought back Cam Johnson, right? He just played 31 minutes right away. There was no limitation. They just immediately threw him into the woods here. So if Cam Thomas is going to play 35 minutes tonight in Charlotte, he could score 40 actual. So willing to throw him out there. I want to see a starting lineup though. I think if he's not starting, then maybe I would take a step back on that one a little bit. But if he's starting again, I am a fan of his, like Vassell, like Strus, like Keldon, Clay here at $6,400. I think it's pretty good with no Paul and no Wiggins tonight. Fine going Duncan Robinson in that pace up, high game total game at 63. And then the Atlanta forward swingmen are all in play for me.
I think Bogdan's a fantastic play off the bench. Going to play 30 minutes. He was playing a big role anyway. If he makes all of his shots, this has a ceiling written all over, and he's gone for 40 already this year. So I know he's getting kind of priced out, but I'd be perfectly fine getting there. Only other names I would add for, I guess, cheaper. You can play quickly here, thankfully. Brandon Miller, $5,800. Excuse me, is going to play all the minutes he can handle. I like the minutes that Brandon Miller is playing despite being in blowouts, 27 and 29 fantasy points over his last 2 games, 18 and 20 actual points. He's looking very competent offensively. So shooting guard, small forward, Brandon Miller, I think does look pretty good. Malik Beasley has been weirdly good. And we've always kind of talked about Malik Beasley as just a streaky player. He's going really good right now. Mm-hmm. 4 made threes in back-to-back games. He's had a bunch of pretty big fantasy outputs. Now I think the rebounds are could not be more of an outlier. 10 and 11 in 2 of his last 3 games. But
we're getting Spurs news here. Sohan in, Doug McDermott doubtful. Let's see if we. Okay. We're not waiting on those 2. We're waiting on the big one. Let's see if we get the big update here. Listen, we talked about this last night. If LaVine and DeRozan end up suiting up here tonight, Milwaukee's defense isn't good enough, I don't think, to not have this hang around and be competitive. I don't know what your. I know the Bulls are very bad. They just lost to the Celtics by 40. But in Chicago, if LaVine and DeRozan are active here, they've let some bad teams be competitive with them. Washington, 31-31, 128. Portland, 108, 102. Right? There's a chance that Chicago might hang around here if that ends up being the case.
Okay.
Sean from the chat.
I am not
I mentioned Kobe White already, Sean. Listen, I'm with you there, especially if Milwaukee is not a good defensive team. They can't stop anybody.
I would say to that, it's a bad perimeter defense. They changed their defensive schemes around, and that's why you saw the uptick in the blocks from Brook Lopez, and that's why Giannis has been more active defensively. So I'd say from early start to now, it's been perimeter and guard defense, which is going to be an issue all year because
Dame can't stop.
It's Dame and Beasley.
So you're telling me if we get LaVine Beasley tonight, or DeRozan, not Beasley, LaVine White, or DeRozan White, something like that out there on the perimeter, I'm fine. I'm fine.
I mean, here's my thing with like the Kobe White thing and like just the Bulls in general. If one of them are out, I'm okay playing them. Like if it's DeRozan out, LaVine in, the Bulls can probably keep that game somewhat competitive. If they're all out, $6,600 Kobe White needs you we need like 33 fantasy points in a game that the Bucks are at full strength and they're gonna just blow the doors off the team. Like the Bulls are not going to be competitive without DeRozan and LaVine, especially with the way that Vucevic has played lately, because he's been awful. And there's a lot of talk about how bad that contract really has turned into, because he still has 2 years after this season. I just don't see a scenario they would keep that game close, because Milwaukee has been so good lately, especially offensively. Like without DeRozan and LaVine, they just don't keep that game competitive, in my opinion. Because what if Caruso doesn't play too? Ooh, they have no one to guard any There's just no scenario that people are being defended, and two, being you have enough scoring to keep up.
Kobe White does have a 34% usage rate with those two off the floor this year. Dalen Terry in just 18 minutes, also 1.4 fantasy points per minute. So, if maybe he starts, did they call him back up? Or is he in the G League? Where's he at? So
he's on. I believe he is on the. I believe he's on the team. I think he got called up the other day when all the injuries popped up, or he's just kind of been on the roster. Yeah, he's just kind of been chilling with the team.
Also, again, we'll see. I mean, it could just be a guy who starts if there's a blowout there. So, all right. Any other shooting guards for you here? Moody, as we talked about, $4,300.
Yeah. Updated ownership has Moses Moody getting 16% rostership, which is interesting because in a game Chris Paul left, he still only played 13 minutes, and he was good. He hit 2 big threes late in that game, and then got subbed out immediately. And then the Warriors collapsed even further, which is hilarious because he just made you 2 threes and then you take him out.
Do you think they pushes Clay up to the 3 maybe, and Moody plays the 2?
Yeah, I guess that's the question. That's why I was talking about the starting lineup. I would love to know what they're going to do, because 3 guys in their rotation are not there, 2 of which are guards. So they could also, in theory, start Podziemski, because they've done that before. I mean, I know Podziemski wasn't in the rotation the last couple games, but he went from being told I'm going to be in the rotation to not. It's a tough scenario for Golden State, because they could play Clay at the 2, like he's done his whole career, and you could play Moody or a big Kuminga lineup, right? Or you could play Podziemski, or you can there's a bunch of different paths they can go. Who the hell knows what they do? Steve Kerr's so wacky, he might start Corey Joseph tonight, and that wouldn't surprise me either.
That wouldn't honestly not shock me whatsoever. Small forward LeBron popping up on the injury report again, questionable here. Are we at all worried? You all worried? I don't think so.
No, until he's actually ruled out, he's just.
I'm with you there. We are getting some LeBron James news here. Apparently, his former business manager is making illegal bets on the NBA.
That is okay. That's
news. LeBron James' current manager, Maverick Carter, admitted he's used a legal bookie to bet thousands of dollars on the NBA.
Huh. That's really bad news
for LeBron James, who's always had a squeaky clean off the court image here.
That's bad. I mean, Maverick Carter is the one he does the shop with. That's who he produced the show with, and that could be quite problematic.
We'll see if there's any ties back to LeBron. I'm sure there won't be. Where are we gonna get? When are we ever gonna get these things here? Butler 83. If he's in or out. If he's in, you gotta like him, right? No.
If he's out, we definitely don't like him. If he's
in, you gotta like him. If he's out, if he's out, you probably gotta like him too, because it just boosts everybody else up. So
That's true. Yes. Yeah. It is interesting. Don't you find it interesting? They came out and were like, Bam in, Duncan Robinson in, Hayward Highsmith in. No word on Jimmy.
We just got Sohan and McDermott
shut.
news and not Wemby. So I mean, like,
what just mouth shut on all these big stars. Like, why do we do this stuff like this? Yeah, I mean, a bump to everyone if Jimmy's out, perfectly fine. If Jimmy's in, definitely like not getting to someone like Duncan or Jaquez at 63.58 if Jimmy's in. I think that'd be like a really tough sell for me.
Other guys in this mid-tier range, we got Keldon at 7K. We're in there. We're in there regardless, right?
Yeah, I like Keldon. I mean, we've talked about it.
Still giving you 40.
You gotta guess so. Yeah, he's had a massive ceiling. He's had a incredibly low floor. So tournaments only, but this feels very ceiling-ish.
Okay. Yeah, 100% agree with you there. I mean, if LeBron James get ruled out, Austin Reeves would be a pretty popular play here tonight.
Yes.
Other guys in this mid-tier range, anybody for you?
Yeah, I have a ton of. Wait a second, where'd he go? I have a ton of interest in DeAndre Hunter, 5,800. That's like I am planting my flag on DeAndre Hunter, 5,800 tonight. He got the bump to 6K last slate. They got blown out. 18 points in 26 minutes. Like DeAndre Hunter over the last 4 games, 25, 20, 24, 18 points. The minutes have been great. That's been something kind of, if he hasn't played well because they've had Jalen Johnson, they could just rotate the next guy in. Well, that hasn't been the case because there's no Jalen Johnson. Like DeAndre Hunter has played well and he's staying on the floor and he's scoring the ball. And now we're getting a matchup against San Antonio where they're terrible defensively, despite having a guy with 10 blocks and steals in 24 minutes. They rank near the bottom of the league in defense. They're 27th. They also, by the way, are 4th in pace. And this is why this game is what it is. It's a 248.5 total. So DeAndre Hunter is been one of the first players I've plugged into my lineups all day. And there's no reason that I'm going to stop that now. Look, he's not a incredible fantasy point per minute guy. 0.91 fantasy points per minute, though, without Jalen Johnson this year is really, really solid for 5,800. And I think we've talked about this a couple times. There are specific spots where you give guys bumps. This is a spot. You can definitively say if DeAndre Hunter plays 35 minutes, it wouldn't be surprising to see him be a fantasy point.
I mean, I said one of the reasons why I wasn't really getting to Trae, and it's not that you can't not play Trae Young, but it's like the other starters on Atlanta are all just much cheaper than he is. You know, you're getting
It's the Miami thing almost from the other night where you didn't play Bam and 4 winning Heat were in the lineup, not Bam. Right? It's like it's all the cheap guys because it's like, well, it's easy to fit them plus like the spend up that you definitely want. And not to say
Bam had a monster night. I mean, John was all in on that one for sure. You were as well. I was like, I don't know. And then they all smashed. Every single one of them smashed.
No, but like the point is like not that Bam was good or not. It's just
everybody played the value and then used their spend up somewhere else.
Right. So, exactly. Agreed. Yeah, exactly.
Moving our way down here, almost got the return of Bojan Bogdanović. Not tonight though. Next play Saturday.
They need him so. They need him so bad, dude. They need him so bad.
Cheap value down here. Again, we had the question in chat about NAW. People are playing him. If you go look at the court IQ, he has a very grossly low output for production. Usage rate's terrible. I mean, could he go off? He would have to buck every trend we've had this year with Anthony Edwards off the floor. 0.67 fantasy points per minute and a 12% usage rate with Anthony Edwards off the floor this year is basically Tony Snell-like. It is on the floor, running up and down, getting your cardio going, touching the line, running back. Is he a better player than this? Like, maybe he went 1 for 7 shooting. If he hit a few more shots, it would have looked better. He is averaging 17 fantasy points per game over the last 5, but that's not enough for almost 5K for me. So I do not have NAW in the playbook. He's not going to be in the player pool. And I understand that if you go look at our roster percentages, he's like the highest rostered guy basically on the slate. I am just not going there.
Well, let's do this. How about this? Updated ownership has 3 Minnesota small forwards, all 25% or higher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Kyle Anderson is now 2x everyone else on the slate. He's 55% projected. Small forward, 4,500. NEW, as you mentioned, 4,900, 32% owned. Troy Brown, shooting guard, small forward, 4,200, 25%. Troy Brown was the one guy, him and Naz Reid were the 2 guys that got a bump when Anthony Edwards left the floor the other day. He's the cheapest. He is the lowest rostered. What are we missing here, John?
I don't know. I think if he gets into the starting lineup, that may change. I think if people see that name in the starting lineup, they'll see $4,200 and just play the cheaper player. But when I wrote up Troy Brown in the playbook today, my other 2 mentioned sort of inceptioned into that analysis was Kyle Anderson and Naz Reid. Those would be the other 2 guys that I want to play. Yeah. Again, I just did the research and looking at it, and I'm like, and there's nothing about NAW that looks appealing to me here. So to see people getting to him, I'm like, all right, if this is where the leverage is going to be, if I can play off of NAW and get my exposure to some of the other guys, then I'll gladly take that. We got 32% playing NAW tonight. If a 32% NAW at $4,900 only goes for 16 fantasy points tonight, then you're going to win. You're going to beat the field there tonight. So Rex saying he feels like he should be straight up avoiding them. I mean, that it's a question because they're monster favorites here tonight. I do like Karl-Anthony Towns a lot in this game because of just the usage and the fantasy point per minute production there. Without Anthony Edwards on the floor, we've also talked with Naz Reid, like he doesn't get blowout run, like he gets normal run, and then when they blow it, they go play Luka Garza, right? Or they play like bottom of the bench guys. They don't play their 6th man, So there's certainly some risk with some of these guys here, but for me, I still think that you can play a Troy Brown or a Kyle Anderson and have them pay off their value because of the usage rate we've seen out of them, the fantasy point per minute we've seen out of them. I just can't get to NAW here tonight.
I'm literally ranking them in reverse pricing, because I also think if this game does blow out, which it may or may not, I'm not sure Minnesota has enough offense to do it, but we'll see. If this game blows out, Troy Brown's the most likely of the 3 to be on the floor in a blowout scenario anyway. So also, I will give a shout, maybe a sneaky Minnesota value, Shake Milton. We could see Shake Milton get extended a little bit. He's probably the highest usage player of all of them. But if I'm ranking the Minnesota small forwards here that all are 25%, I'm just going to play the guy who's cheapest, who has the same eligibility as NAW, shooting guard, small forward, which we love, and is the guy that was directly an in-game adjustments versus practice adjustments are obviously 2 different things. And, they put Troy Brown in the game and he looked great. He looked like Anthony Edwards at 17 points in 21 minutes. That's the guy I'm playing, who's cheapest, lowest owned. So I in tournaments, I agree with everything everyone's saying. NAW, if he beats us, like, here, I don't have
what beats us at $4,900?
20. Yeah, 24. He needs 24 if he gets 30 fantasy
points. Well, that's
points.
what I'm saying. Like, to beat, he's not 3K, right? He's 5K.
Yeah.
So what does he have to do to beat us? If he gives you 25 fantasy points, I don't think that's beating us. That's a 5X play. Like, we can find plenty of 5X plays on this slate. Like, he would have to go for 40. I think, to beat me, right? Yes. Like, I don't think he's got that in the bag. So
Gafford chalk, when Gafford chalk goes for 40, you're like,
$4,200 Gafford going for 10x, right? It's like, but we played him, right? I don't see that ceiling coming from NAW in this spot here.
Agreed.
So if he goes for 25 and I don't play him, like, I'm fine with that. Okay, whatever. Enjoy the 5x there. I don't think that's going to beat me tonight. I also like Georges Niang. Shout out our boy. Played his fewest minutes for whatever reason all season against Atlanta. Maybe the blowout had something to do with it.
Okoro back.
That's truthful there. But did go 12-7, got us to 22 fantasy points, and now he's cheaper. So he's not shy. This is why I like him. The man goes out there and shoots. And I was crying to you, like all of you guys, I like to tilt as well. He was like 1 for 5 to start. And I was like, unbelievable. He's out here. He's grabbing rebounds. And he's just missing everything. And then he hit like his next 4 shots. Buckets available to play tonight. So how does that change your Jimmy Butler opinion here?
I mean, it's a great spot, but it just ruins the rest of the Heat. I would say, truthfully, you can probably now like comfortably play 2.5 Heat. Jimmy, Bam, and
Duncan?
Kyle. I think for me he's priced too high, 63. I was gonna say Kyle Lowry at 56. But that's only I only committed to half of Kyle Lowry because I'm not sure I could fully it would probably be just Jimmy and Bam. But it's I
think IC3 you asked us about Hart yesterday and we were like, nah, and then he went 7 for 10 shooting. I'm still gonna give you a nah, but if you want to play him, go for it. He's Josh Hart. If he fits your build, he can play Josh Hart.
I mean, Detroit is awful. And you get fantasy points. It could happen.
I mean, he just hit all of his shots. He just made everything. So if you want, go. Sure. Same price as Kyle Anderson. More people can be playing Kyle Anderson. I think Isaiah Joe is also an interesting little dart there if you want to get in that just exposure to that game. He's going to shoot. He's going to only shoot threes. If he hits them, you win. If he doesn't, you lose. Let's see. Georges is there. Anybody else? They gave Griffin how many minutes the other day? 15. Didn't do anything with him, but he was on the floor. So I was just curious as to what that was about.
So the official status update on Butler is per Brady Hawk. He's a Miami Heat beat writer. Jimmy Butler is still questionable, but will warm up with intention.
Super, love it, fantastic.
So the good thing is we don't have a ton of Portland-Cleveland exposure at 7. They will know pretty much the rest of the
Fair enough. After that. All right, let's move on to power forward here. Giannis is 11-2. I mean, if there was a spot for 70 3/4, this would probably be it. And if DeRozan, dude, if DeRozan and Levine both get rolled in, I might play Giannis over SGA.
I know you are. I mean, look, they played a competitive game earlier in the year. Giannis didn't have but this is where the defensive numbers have started to turn around for Giannis since they changed their defensive scheme a little bit. And we're getting Giannis again, right? Him and Dame have figured it out. He's 60 with Middleton back against Miami too.
Actually, he had 0 blocks and steals in that game, which is not likely to happen there. Yeah, exactly, Sean. Try not to play. There you go. 3-minute late scratch from Jimmy Buckets. Exactly, 100%.
You're also because of that, you'll get, if you want to play Jimmy Butler in the best game or the best peso spot on the board, you'll get him at 1%.
And you'll probably also get the passive Jimmy Butler, who is whatever, great spot. I'll let everybody else do something. I'll just hang out. And watch you guys play. Sorry, scrolling around here, not trying to make anybody sick. Towns 88. I'm trying to refocus my own brain at the same time as talking. Towns, love them.
Oh, the chicken must have just got.
Oh yeah, the dinner has arrived. So.
Okay, got it. Yeah, chickens, and
we'll test the pasta and grilled chicken. We're all about it. $8,800 here for Towns. 1.4 fantasy points per minute. 36%. 40. Is it 40? I think it's 40% usage rate actually without Anthony Edwards on the floor. Just ridiculous potential here against a Utah team that is going to be without their top players. Maybe no Clarkson here as well. So again, I do think Towns can do a lot of damage in a short amount of time in this matchup here tonight. If you want. Wemby though is still I'm praying he gets in this game. I need to see Victor Wembanyama in a 250 game total game. I have to see it. I want to see it. 10 blocks and steals, 9 blocks and steals in the last 5. I mean, this would be such a fun game that we're just sprinting up and down the floor against each other. I need to see it.
If you could only play one, Wemby or Towns, and I know that we don't have to pick
Wemby over Towns.
Okay,
he has 10 block and steal upside.
I mean,
he did that in 25 minutes.
I was gonna say, you said that that's the ceiling. I mean, he has 10 block and 10 steal upside, like individually, probably not in the same game, but like individually, because his arms stretch across the entire
There's
arena.
only a handful, and probably less than a handful of players that can give you 60 in 25 minutes.
Human beings. Just like
Giannis,
aliens.
Embiid, Jokic, Luka.
Yep.
Right? Like
I would say that's probably because
he won't triple double, but he'll give you the triple double in combined blocks and steals. So like, which is actually worth more points than anything else if you're playing on FanDuel. So Wemby is my number one with a bullet tonight. If he's in, will we know?
If there's a limit, if we find out there's a limit.
I don't think he'll be limited. But what's the limit? He just went for 60 in 25 minutes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If they like hard capped him, they were like 25 minutes.
I'd probably still play him.
Okay.
It's 250 total.
I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm too invested. Mid-tier range here. Chasing Mobley.
I feel like there's two guys. I feel like there's three guys right here almost next to each other, excluding Miles Bridges. Do we chase Kawhi back-to-back Kawhi-esque vintage games?
He is written up in the playbook. I didn't want to give away the entire playbook, but he is also written up in the playbook in the core play section today. I mean, where did this come from? Where did these games come from?
Good.
Sporadically giving it to us all season long, and then boom, boom, back-to-back 50+.
Yep, 50 burgers, and he's still just the cheapest one of all. He's still cheaper than Paul George. The position eligibility kind of, sucks, but Grant coming off an absolute ceiling performance, but he's now gone for 44 and 3 of 4. Tough spot because he's facing Evan Mobley, who is coming off an absolute ceiling game. So I would say, how would you rank those? How would you rank those three? I would probably put Grant third.
Yeah, Mobley, Grant for me.
Yeah, that's how I would rank.
Ronald, an hour early. We got the NFL show coming up at 7. If you want to hang out, we'll get you there at 7:00 Eastern time for the NFL show there. Do you like Draymond tonight?
I don't hate Draymond because I love seeing the 33 minutes. And I feel like anytime you can get that version of Draymond.
Sean, you playing Draymond tonight? Let me know in the chat.
Is Sean a Draymond?
No, he just sometimes he plays Draymond. I just want to know if Draymond's in his player pool tonight.
I played him in the Minnesota. What game did he get thrown out of? He got thrown out of the Cleveland game. That was the Donovan Mitchell game. And he had 20 fantasy points in 18 minutes. I'm like, wow, low on Draymond. This is great.
Hard note for Sean.
I don't look. This is against Westbrook. Probably the two testiest players in the NBA would lead to disaster.
Can we get a fight? Yeah,
dude. I mean, I'm not saying that.
But does Westbrook get ejected tonight? That's the question. That's the one we all want.
I hate to be that guy about just players getting ejected and stuff, and because it is. But Draymond is the most testy player in the NBA, right? No question. And then or Westbrook, it's one or two. There's just no one else in the competition or in that tier. So. I like the 33 minutes. It's hard not to. He missed 5 games and came back and immediately was thrust into action. Now there's no Clay or no Wiggins. Could we see more run there?
No Chris Paul, more offense.
Right? Dude, exactly. It makes sense.
This game maybe for Draymond tonight.
Yeah,
at 7 and 8 in these 2 games. I mean,
yep, and it makes sense. So I'm not crossing him off my player pool. I would get to him in a tournament.
We did talk Grant again. We have him ranked below the other group because he's got to deal with Allen and Mobley here tonight. Sometimes we overstate the defensive matchups 100%, but I mean Mobley's a defensive player candidate there, so defensive player of the year candidate there. So a little for me. Cam J, any Cam J here against Charlotte?
Feels safe.
We haven't talked to anybody on the Charlotte side of this game, but.
Well, Brandon Miller. We gave Brandon Miller a little shout.
We passed by Bridges. Just too expensive for you now?
Yeah, a little too expensive. I mean, we don't, especially both Bridges on this game are a little too expensive. Cam J safe. There is that Royce O'Neal question mark.
Sure.
So Cam J, who had been limited to high 20s, probably gets into low 30s if O'Neal doesn't play.
Yeah, I just gotta wonder how many shots are left with Cameron Thomas on the floor.
None. The answer is none.
Yeah, Cameron Thomas gets the opening tip and immediately calls the ISO. And he's just right here.
You just see him just like giving. Jock Vaughn's over there calling a play. He's like, no.
What's Cameron Thomas's number? Is it 1? Because that'd be fitting.
24.
Okay, I was gonna say if it was 1, they'd just hold up the 1. Just hold up the 1. Let's go. I think Bobby Portis is in play at 56, just off the bench. A lot of scoring upside for him. Sadiq Bey, 55. Love him, obviously. And it's like the other Golden State questions we have, like Saric, Toppin, like what the wing play looks like now for not Toppin, Kuminga, what the wing play looks like for Golden State tonight.
I mean, like, you have to assume that they're going to get a bump. You also don't like to see Kuminga just magically playing 10 minutes in that Sacramento game. That's what happens when everyone's extended. Jonathan Kuminga is now just firmly out of the rotation. Like, that sucks. But they're down 3 different guys. So I would love to get to the guy that they probably should be playing more, but it's just really hard to love the spot. But I would like, if you're asking me Kuminga 45 or like Kyle Anderson 45, I'd probably rather take a shot on it.
What about Kevin Love at 48 if he starts?
I don't know with Highsmith back.
Okay.
Maybe if he starts, but I would say those 26 minutes most likely are like closer to that 17 the game before.
Okay. Would you play the other side of that matchup, whether it be Toppin or Neesmith, whoever starts?
Probably
no Jalen Smith tonight. Maybe no Isaiah Jackson tonight. A lot of questions in that front court, rather, for the Pacers here.
Probably a pass for me.
Okay. I'm very curious to see what they do with that.
Yeah, it's true. With do they play Jarice Walker? Do they play Tashibi?
Jordan Nwora get unlocked here?
Never. I mean, it's just, that we'll play Jordan Nwora if he's starting, but it has to be Jordan Nwora. That has to be a starting lineup released with Jordan Nwora. I would say Jarice
recall.
Yeah, I would say Tashibi or Jarice Walker would act as the backup center, but
we called him as well.
Yeah, I would say he would probably be the guy. But Jarice Walker was also a lotto pick.
What? He's averaging 19 and 18 in the G League?
I mean, like,
that's crazy.
It is quite good.
Crazy numbers in the G League here.
It's quite good.
All right, center spot. AD, I played him last night. It was a great spot for him. Yep. 63 fantasy points in 29 minutes. Gonna go up against Chet tonight. I still like Anthony Davis if you want to stack that game. Obviously, he's 10-2 now. With Butler back, does that take you off Bam at all against this spot against Pacers, or he's just
not really?
He's fine.
Yeah, not really.
Okay. This is a spot I do like Bam tonight. I haven't played a ton of them, but would play them. I also don't mind just playing Towns and Wemby together. I mentioned that as well. Chet Holmgren, I don't really even care who the matchup is at this point. He just he played against Philly. He went for 51. So like doesn't seem to matter. Doesn't seem to matter who he's up against. He's a baller. Other mid-tier guys for you at center?
I mean, Gobert. Do I expect Rudy Gobert to have 17 points every game? No, but there is no Anthony Edwards. We saw double-digit shot attempts for just the 4th time this year. I don't think that is fully a coincidence. So if you want to get to Gobert, 74, plays up against Utah, probably a little salty that he was dealt from a team that was, made the Western Conference Finals, was a 1 seed during his time there, where he won like 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards. So Gobert 7,400 is perfectly fine. DeAndre Ayton 7K is perfectly fine. With Ayton playing, I would expect Jared Allen to get extended back up to like the 32, 33 minutes, but no guarantee. Maybe go back to the Walker Kessler well. I like the minutes trending upwards, 21, 26, 28 the last 3 games. He played in a game that was largely not competitive yesterday and still played the 28 minutes. So you just have to assume in any real scenario, like he's starting, probably gets blowout run. If he doesn't come off the bench, or if he comes off the bench, probably gets a blowout run as we saw yesterday. So Walker Kessler is fine. And then Zach Collins, you alluded to earlier, if Wemby's out. I mean,
Wemby's out. I mean, he's been putting up good numbers at times again, like most of these guys with Wemby even on the floor. But if he gets out, just a great spot for him against Atlanta here. There are people getting to Okonkwo tonight. Would you play him at 5K?
Yeah, it's not so. That doesn't surprise me really that people are getting there. He has definitely been the beneficiary of the split lately.
Yeah.
The only 22 minutes in Cleveland was because Bruno Fernando played minutes. It wasn't even like he lost out on the short end of that split.
And they lost by 23 in that.
Yeah, they lost by 23. He had been the clear, despite coming off the bench, playing more than Capella in the 3 games prior. This feels more Ngannou-esque because Zach Collins stretches the floor, and Ngannou is just like the more athletic.
Yeah, I was stunned to see him hit a 3 the other day. I know he takes sometimes, but he actually hit it. So
4 for 16 on the year from 3, John. So you're kind of nailed that one.
Yeah, surprised to see him make it, but he does take them. DePrince wants our 2 favorite value plays on the playbook. You want to go check that out? We did mention the Minnesota guys here tonight. I like Kyle Anderson, like Naz Reid, like Troy Brown, not playing NAW for me here tonight, DePrince. So you could probably plug in 2 of those guys if you wanted to, or you can check out the playbook. A couple other value plays. I'm going to be updating that player pool section here in a moment. Let's get to our lineup build here.
I got one more thing for you that I find a little interesting.
Sure.
The Lakers have like 10 guys on their injury report today. LeBron is warming up as we speak. We know Prince is out. We know Vanderbilt's out. Reddish is questionable.
Yeah.
Max Christie is questionable. Jackson Hayes is questionable. Christian Wood is $4,900. If Reddish and
Brandon Miller just got ruled out, by the way.
Brandon Miller ruled out. So PJ Washington is probably the most likely candidate to slide into the starting rotation.
Yeah.
For anyone that wants to
play against the Knicks.
The
Knicks, Brooklyn.
Yeah, 5,500 PJ Washington probably starts. Probably has a ceiling minutes game there. But I could see a scenario where they like Austin Reeves coming off the bench so much that they would start Wood next to Anthony Davis if all of those guys were ruled out.
Sure.
Because you could just move Prince and James up and move
I
Wood.
Still don't think I would play Christian Wood in that scenario, but
okay. I'm just throwing it out there. We know Christian Wood, 29 fantasy points in 25 minutes last night. He has been a good fantasy point per minute guy throughout his career.
Sure. All right, let's build a lineup here.
Okay.
What's your Minnesota value that you're liking?
Brown. Okay. I would say Brown. I mean, let's do the thing. Wemby Towns, right? That felt like the pretty consensus thing that we wanted to do.
Yep. Quickly a shooting guard.
Yep. Then some Atlanta, some cheapies, some Hunter Bay, Hunter Bogdanovich.
Quickly, Hunter. Can we get DeJounte here?
Possibly. We probably have to go back to like a Naz Reid type, or
Moody.
Or Moody.
Moody at 43 slots in a guard. 47.
I would say, depending on what we can do, Moody at the util would make more sense. Sure. But it all depends on if we can even we'd have to find a guard at that price. Right. So
Bay's a little bit cheaper than Hunter. Gives us a 5K util. Which could be a Okonkwo here.
Could be. Yep. And you could actually technically get Moody to the guard spot because Brown is shooting guard small forward. Bay. No, I can't.
There's a moving around there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with the way. If
you actually could. Towns to center, Wemby to forward, Bay to power forward.
Okay. I'm not gonna do all that gymnastics. So we have Okonkwo probably then just has the util.
Yeah.
And that's just an example lineup for everybody there. You get yourself a little Atlanta, San Antonio game stack, the value, Troy Brown with Towns, value with Moody, and quickly there for example for tonight's slate. Again, get it in the Discord. We'll be there. Roster lock at 7 o'clock. I'm going to be updating that player pool grid right now for everybody. So you can find all of that there. Then come back here at 7 o'clock Eastern time. Myself and Andrew Cooper till 8 o'clock, breaking down Thursday Night Football. So we'll answer any fantasy football questions that you have getting ready for week 13. For now, everybody, good luck tonight, and we'll catch you later.